Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish Podcast. Today's episode is featuring Cynthia Marr, music director at Ascension Parish in Sudbury, Massachusetts. Here's what's fun about Cynthia. She has been at this parish in this role for decades, and yet was not afraid to pivot and try something completely different than what they'd been doing before. You're going to learn so much from her about her history in music and how she inspires the entire congregation to sing along. We'll see you inside the episode. Well, hi, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us on the Rebuilt Parish Podcast.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Well, this is exciting because we are talking about music, and music is one of the pillars of the weekend experience. We talk about music, message, and ministry. And Cynthia, we haven't talked about music really until this month. So we're excited that our listeners and our community get to learn from you.
Great. Awesome. Well, I just want to say that it's wonderful to be here with you. My experience at Rebuilt was uplifting, and I really felt when I was there with you just this past May that this is really where I was meant to be. And it was an extremely, moving time that I spent at Nativity with you. My background is that I was classically educated, but I also my degrees were in choral conducting and music education, but I also did a lot of commercial music as a young musician. And I've been like a lifelong music director. I started when I was 12 years old playing the organ in church.
Wow.
I've stayed with it, right along. I've been here at Ascension Parish for decades, but the way I kind of measure my time here is in the number of pastors that I've worked with. And the reason why I do that is because every pastor comes with their vision, and often they can be very different. And my job is to adapt my musical knowledge to their vision, and to have clear goals. And in defining those goals, try to ask myself, what is Jesus going to accomplish through my goals?
That's
good. Always something I try to go back to, because you can get really lost in the musical details.
Definitely. Now, Cynthia, I think we need to know, how many pastors have you been there for?
I think it's 7.
Wow.
And currently, our current pastor, part of his vision, we've been actually reading the Rebuilt book. And 2 years ago, I went to visit Nativity. And then this past May, we went again, and we brought many more people from our parish. But musically, one of our pastor's vision was to have the same style of music and same quality of music, hopefully, at all the masses, so that anyone that was visiting our parish for the first time would have a similar experience of what we do at our parish. And in our part of the country, that's fairly unusual. Or I would say definitely in our diocese, that's pretty unusual. Many parishes try to offer a variety of musical expressions at their different masses. But we were all in with praise and worship music, and got that going actually during the pandemic, and then continued on. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can't wait to dive in some more for you. So let's talk a little bit about your experience at conference, because you mentioned you had been to Nativity before. So conference wasn't your first time. So I'd love to know, what inspired you to go? How many people went along from your parish, and what were some of your biggest takeaways?
Well, we had like 6 or 7 people from our parish that went. So it was like most of our staff. And I had my musical collaborator, our pastor approved her coming along this time, which was fantastic, because to navigate, you have to know where you start and where you want to end up. But there are a lot of stops you have to make along the way. And having someone there who could experience the same thing that I had experienced before, and could reflect on through her filter in a different perspective of what the experience was at Nativity, was a huge help, because that's going to really enable us to bring that back to everybody in our band and in our music ministry. I will say that words cannot describe the enthusiasm and the spirit that you experience when you're there at Nativity. So you just have to be there to experience that. So that was a huge takeaway. But other specific implementations, the first time that I was down at Nativity, I immediately came back, brought home a big TV from home, set up a confidence monitor so that we could move out of our positions where the singers or the worship leaders lead worship for at least some of the songs during the Mass. And this was, it might sound drastic, but we did it in a way that was pretty moderate at our church. And it's made a huge difference. It's really helped, I think, the singers, the vocalists be able to feel like they're really communicating with the assembly, looking the people in the face. Now, the other thing, another thing that I got from that conference was speaking with other musicians. I actually wasn't aware of all the suite of things that Worship Tools offers. And now that it's coordinated with Loop Community and CCLI, that helped to bring me into that whole software opportunity that I didn't know about before. So we use Pro Presenter, and we have slides, which is one of the ways that we really are able to, again, make our music effective for the assembly. But I use Worship Tools for the musicians in the band, because we don't have the ability right now to have that all be one unified system. So that was a big takeaway, learning about that software. Something else that we noticed this year, actually, my partner that came with me, my collaborator, Kim, was how at Rebuilt, how quickly that we call it like a fast breakaway when you're going from one song or one part of the liturgy to the next. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I feel that the way they do it at your church or at Nativity, one event just flows seamlessly into the next so that there's never any awkward pauses or meaningless pauses. Now, there are pauses for reflection at very specific points and used not too often so that they are very effective when they're used is a great thing. And so we really liked that. We felt it was more in keeping with the way people perceive things. Yes. Video and et cetera. So we've even adopted more of that. And we use sound pads also to help create that continuous flow in the service. Do you want me to keep going?
Well, oh my gosh, let me stop you there if it's okay, because I have so many more questions and you've said some great things. So the first thing I love that you said is you got to take your worship partner with you, which is incredible. And I think one thing that does, Cynthia, is that removes the block of you having to go back and just say, okay, I can't explain it as well as they did, but here's what you need to know. How incredible that you got to experience that together. Then when you were learning about those new tools, you were able to implement them. I think that is incredible, because one of the beautiful things about this Rebuilt community is getting the opportunity to learn from others in our same roles all over the country, which is great. But there's a question I want to ask you, because if they're watching on YouTube right now, they can see that your parish is a little more of a traditional parish, not one of the mid-century parishes where it's a, that more open feel. So this is just a technical question for you. I want to know, how is it working with screens in your parish? And how was that? How did your parish accept that when you switched over that worship style from, traditional hymns and songs into praise and worship music?
Well, our switch over somewhat coordinated or coincided with the pandemic. We had started to make that transition just before the pandemic started. Up until that point, we actually had a very vibrant multi-choir music program. And, we had children, teens, and adult choir that had really been built up, again, over decades, because I had been here so long. I was taught, find a place, stay there, and make it the best place to be. Don't skip around, and I've done that. So when we decided that we were going to go over to this praise and worship repertoire, I mean, it was some people had felt that the repertoire that we had been doing for the past 30 years was classic Catholic music, when actually it really wasn't. It was just what we had been doing for the past 20 or 30 years. And that we knew that this new repertoire would soon become what people associated with, oh, that's our standard repertoire. I mean, it takes a couple of years to build it up. But, in the beginning, it was a little bit, it was a little bit of an adjustment. I have always felt, visiting other churches, that the screens, not that we have a lot of churches in our area that were using screens early on, but I noticed right away that when people are looking up at a screen, they're not looking down in their book.
Yes.
And so it's a very unifying factor. And we were super lucky at our parish that the way our screens fit into the architecture of our sanctuary, it's very unobtrusive. You don't walk into the church and see nothing but screen. So it really fit very appropriately in the space. And over time, some people who are having a hard time with the adjustment, I've heard them say, I just love our music. So,
Wow.
people have adjusted. And of course, we're in the process. So then, of course, during the pandemic, we couldn't have choirs because we could barely meet in person. So that was kind of a way that the music we were doing could be better accepted, because we were in a different format anyway. And now, over the past couple of years, one of the most exciting things we've been able to do is we've been able to bring back the choirs, and for Christmas, Advent, Holy Week, have them sing with the band.
Oh, I love that.
It's kind of like the best of both worlds.
What a special way to not just make them feel included, because for not everybody, a worship band is what they want to do, but what a great way to take those people, make them feel important and included, and make it a special part of those liturgical celebrations. I love that, Cynthia.
And there are some praise and worship songs, like Living Hope would be an example, which have beautiful orchestrations.
Yes.
We use that for Holy Thursday as the opening hymn. And it lent itself to having flutes, violins, instrumentalists, choir, and yet it was a core part of our repertoire for the band.
Wow.
So, things like that, really, it doesn't have to be just strictly guitar driven to be praise and worship contemporary music. So
yes, definitely. Well, Cynthia, I think you're starting now to inspire some of those parishes that do have a more traditional layout rather than a contemporary layout, that you can incorporate screens in a way that will be unobtrusive, and you can still have this great music, and you can change this culture of music in your parish. Now, you did all of this purposefully, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Why is excellent music so essential in creating a vibrant and engaging weekend liturgical experience?
Well, sometimes I say jokingly, one of the first kind of goals of a music director is to do no harm. In other words, don't be a distraction.
Yes.
But after that, music can obviously create energy, evoke emotion, and probably most importantly, makes the messages more memorable.
Yes.
We're lucky we have a pastor that is a very good preacher, but it's just like learning the alphabet. It's more memorable when you put it to music. The goal is to have people going home humming some of the refrains from these songs in their head. And when I meet them at the health club or the grocery store and they tell me that that's the case, I feel like, we've done our job.
Yes, that's how you know you're winning at this. That is amazing. And Cynthia, I think you did a beautiful job connecting the message to the music right there, which is such a key part of the liturgy, helping to drive home that message with the music that they can take home because that refrain is going over and over in their head. Well done. I love hearing that.
Something else that people really like is when we take a classic or familiar tune from earlier repertoire, and we modernize it. So like, for instance, All Creatures of Our God and King, Holy, Holy, Holy. I call those kind of classic hymns. They're not necessarily the traditional Catholic hymns,
Mhm.
which are based more on chant, In Christ Alone. So if we take that and contemporize it, people are like, oh, yeah, I know that song. I love that song,
That's
and
good.
we get good assembly participation, from
Well,
that.
that's great, especially for the Catholics who are maybe coming to your parish for the first time. They feel, they walk in and automatically they can see that something is different because they can see your band set up and they can see the screens. When they get there and now they're like, "Oh, I know this song. We used to sing this when I was a kid." What a great idea. And I have to share with you, Cynthia, just because you're a music person, you'll get it. My pastor, I'm at a parish in upstate New York, St. Mary's in Glens Falls, and my pastor likes to joke and call some of those classic songs, we call them Vatican Top 40. So that's, as we're planning different things, he jokes about Vatican Top 40, and those are some of the ones that we consider in those, not necessarily Catholic songs, but the ones that everybody
Exactly.
knows. They're the ones that everybody knows all of the lyrics to. Well,
Yeah, I agree very much. I'm always saying that to my pastor. These aren't necessarily Catholic hymns, but they certainly were adopted by all of the Catholic
yes,
publishers and musicians, and Catholics think of them as being their music.
definitely. Now, you shared how you work, to make sure that the music is driving home the message. I would love for you to share, how do you do this? How do you plan the music to go along with the message?
Well, there's two guideposts. You've got the actual readings, and then you've got whatever the theme is, which our pastor most of the time is working on a theme that lasts 4 or 5 weeks. So again, it's navigation. You just work between those 2 points. It's a lot easier to do, of course, during seasons like Advent, where there's so many. All of the readings have, a lot of. Although actually, even during ordinary time, there's often a succession of readings that are kind of hitting a core theme. And what we do is we try to keep the music the same for like at least a month so that people get to know the music. And again, so that those themes are starting to come through. And it works amazingly well.
So here's Cynthia's. This is what I'd love to know. How did that culture start to shift when you made that change, as far as keeping the same songs? What was the congregation's participation like when you did that, had that consistency in the music?
I can really, first week of a set list, you can hear the difference every week, people just participating more and more and more. Of course, now that we have built up a repertoire that we've been doing for a few years, it's a little bit less dramatic because people know a lot of the music already. But it's always, by the 4th week, everyone is singing and participating, and even the band's playing better at that point.
Well, I think that's great, because one thing we want is for people to fully engage in worship, and music is such an important part of it. When they don't know the song or don't know the words, or it's not played well and it's hard to follow along with, it makes it harder on the people in the pews. But by doing what you're doing, you're alleviating that pressure from them. You're taking away, a barricade, and really helping them to learn the song and know it so they can sing from the heart too.
Definitely. Yep.
I would love to know now that you've got this incredible band that you've been working with, you've got these incredible choirs that you've been working with for years. How do you recruit, train, and inspire these musicians and singers to bring their best every single week?
Well, recruitment is a year-round, 24/7, never stop activity. We are very blessed that we have an all-professional band.
Wow.
And that's another reason why it was very important to bring back our choirs and our youth. And we will use them to join in with the band on different occasions, so that we're making sure that we make that connection. But recruitment never stops. We have to build a bench because our musicians, the better they are, the more they're playing at other places as well as doing their work here. So we have to build relationships. We're always auditioning people. We're always looking to find good guest musicians. So that's an ongoing thing. And we are hoping that one of the young people on our parish staff who was part of our music ministry ever since she was in kindergarten and is now on the staff, that she's going to help us to leverage our band through social media so that we can reach even more musicians and more parishioners will know, what we're doing for music at our parish, because it is a big investment, that we're making in music. I will say then, once we have, a good bench of people, it's really important to make rehearsals as enjoyable as possible. That means for me arriving early, showing all of the band members that I'm professional, that we're professional, and we appreciate their preparation and their professionalism. In fact, we really expect everyone to arrive early so that by the time we start rehearsal, we're ready to go, and make rehearsal as painless as possible. And it's just like any sport. If you play with somebody that's a little bit better than you, your game seems to get better.
Yes.
It elevates everybody. So, that's what I try to put myself under, that pressure, and, try to meet that standard. And, I really see that it does seem to be catchy when you do that.
Yes. Oh, and Cynthia, I love that analogy that you shared too. When you're playing with somebody that's a little bit better than you, it elevates your game. And it sounds like you're attracting quality and professional musicians.
True. And I will say that one of the tricky things that we're working on is improving our sound system, so that, because right now I run the sound system as well as being music director and playing an instrument, and it's really, you just have to avoid downtime in rehearsals as well. You can't, it's very frustrating if I come in and something's not working or we have a hum in the system. So
Right.
again, that's to worship teams across the country. It's like, there's a point where you have to, have a good stable sound system to be able
Yes.
to, function professionally when you do have good talent.
Yes, that is one. Oh my goodness. I remember when we replaced our sound system, which was during COVID because it was the perfect time to do it. And it was a learning curve for everyone on just number one, learning how to use the sound system. But number two, just kind of figuring out, okay, well, if the music director is up there and they're busy, somebody else needs to be cross-trained on how to operate this to help out, because that is a lot. You as the music director wear so many different hats just during Mass. That's not even including the other tasks that you do and other leadership roles you have. But it's critical then to have those people that can back you up too, because that's a lot for one person.
So
Wow.
we're definitely moving towards having more active sound management, sound engineer, and that's the evolution.
Yes.
That's the dream.
What I love that dream. What a wonderful dream. That is incredible. Now, Cynthia, I know you're inspiring our parishes that are listening. So for those that are listening, but maybe don't have a strong music program yet, what would you say is the first step towards building one?
Well, find a competent music director, preferably one that can play and or sing, so that they can carry the liturgy by themselves if they have to. Not that that's the goal, but yeah. And then that person should be someone that enjoys bringing other people along the path and to becoming worship leaders. But you have to start with one person.
Yes.
And you have to give it time, because hopefully you're not going to stay there too long with that one person being the center of making everything work, or being able to get by if everybody's sick or most people are sick or what somebody critical is sick. But so you have to be a working music director. so that you can carry the load yourself if in the worst case scenario, if you have to, or until you can build up person by person. Yeah, I would say that.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Now, Cynthia, you've already dripped a little bit of vision towards us for what you want the future of Ascension music and liturgy team to be, but maybe share a little bit more. What does that vision look like for you, and how do you see it helping the parish grow in faith and community?
Well, I have to say that when I hear the assembly singing with the music that we're playing, and I see parents swaying to the music with their little children, and when we play the postlude when their kids are dancing in the aisle, I think we're doing something worthwhile here.
Yes.
I've been really happy with the degree that we've been able to bring back the choirs of various ages again to engage people. To participate with the band, so it's not just the band doing everything. And I'll say that when I hear the assembly singing, I mean, that just makes me feel like obviously we've engaged them at that point.
Yes.
I look forward to our new sound system, which is on the horizon, which will create, more reliability and stability for our liturgies. And also, I look forward to growing our sound management to include a larger role for not just a professional sound engineer, live sound management, but a team of volunteers that can help in the space and online. It is a concern of mine that some people believe, and I know that it was talked about at Rebuilt, that the front door of your church is the internet now, because a lot of people will look for various churches in the community online. And, if that is true, then it's really important to have your music sound predominantly similar to the way it sounds in the space. And that's been something that we've had to really, work at.
Amazing. Well, Cynthia, I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to see what happens for the future of Ascension Parish, especially in the music. And I know with you in that leadership role that it's only going to be great things going forward.
Well, it's been really fun doing this podcast with you. Thanks for the opportunity to articulate some of what we're doing here at Ascension.
Well, thank you for pouring into our parish leaders and our community today. We are so thankful for you and all that you are doing at Ascension.